And looking back now, I realize that was the greatest gift my family ever gave me. Before you go, I just want to say thank you for spending your time with me and listening to this story. If there's one lesson I hope you take away today, it's that misunderstandings can grow when we stay silent, but honest conversations have the power to heal even the deepest emotional wounds. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of someone special in your life, please take a moment to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences, or simply where you're watching from. I read as many comments as I can, and your support truly means the world to this channel. And if you enjoy emotional true stories filled with family, life lessons, unexpected twists, and unforgettable moments, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Also, give this video a thumbs up because every like helps more people discover these stories. There's another powerful story waiting for you on the screen right now. Click on it and I'll see you there in just a few seconds. He smiled warmly. Families aren't strong because they never misunderstand each other. They're strong because someone eventually chooses to speak. Those words became one of the greatest lessons of my life. On the drive home the next day, everything felt different. The laughter returned naturally. The conversations lasted for hours. It wasn't because life had become perfect again. It was because we had finally stopped assuming what everyone else was thinking. Years have passed since that weekend. Today my brothers have families of their own. We don't see each other every day anymore. Life has taken us in different directions. But every Sunday we still make time for a family video call. Sometimes we laugh about childhood memories. Sometimes we argue over football. Sometimes we simply enjoy hearing each other's voices. Whenever I think back to that difficult chapter, I no longer remember it with embarrassment. Instead, I remember the lesson it taught me. Fear grows in silence. Understanding begins with a conversation. And no misunderstanding is too large to overcome when people are willing to listen with open hearts. That weekend didn't just repair our relationship. It reminded all of us that the strongest families aren't the ones that never face challenges. They're the ones who choose each other, again and again, no matter how difficult life becomes. Embarrassed about what? I explained how I had overthought that small accident in the living room weeks earlier. How I convinced myself everyone must have noticed my awkward reaction. How every day afterward became harder because I believed things had changed forever. When I finished speaking, neither of them laughed. Instead, Matteo smiled with relief. Elena, you seriously carried all of that by yourself? I thought you'd think I was being weird. Luca shook his head. We barely remembered the accident. It happened in 1 second. The only thing we noticed afterward was that you stopped acting like yourself. I stared at them in disbelief. So, you weren't upset? Not even a little. We were worried about you. A weight I had carried for weeks suddenly disappeared. It was incredible how quickly fear can grow when we refuse to talk. The misunderstanding had never been about the accident. It had been about silence. That evening after dinner, Grandpa gathered everyone outside. The sky glowed orange as the sun disappeared behind the hills. He looked at each of us before speaking. You know what keeps a family strong? We all listened. It's not perfection. It's honesty. For the first time in weeks, the tension began to disappear. After lunch, Grandpa asked if someone could help him repair an old wooden fence behind the house. Naturally, my brothers volunteered. I surprised myself by saying, I'll help too. The three of us carried tools across the field. For several minutes we worked without speaking. Finally, Luca rested his hammer against the fence and looked at me. Can I ask you something? I froze. Sure. Have we done something to upset you? His question caught me completely off guard. What? You've been avoiding us. Matteo nodded. We thought maybe we said something without realizing it. Hearing those words instantly changed everything. All this time I believed they were uncomfortable around me. Meanwhile, they had been wondering why I was pulling away. Neither side understood the other. The silence had created a misunderstanding far bigger than the original moment itself. I laughed nervously. No. You didn't do anything. Then why have you been hiding upstairs every evening? I took a deep breath. I guess. The words felt difficult to say. I've been embarrassed. That's not the answer I asked for. I looked down at my hands. I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot. She nodded. Sometimes we spend so much time imagining what other people think that we forget to ask them. Her words stayed with me long after she left my room. Maybe she was right. Maybe the distance I felt existed only inside my own mind. Still, gathering the courage to face it felt impossible. A few days later, my father announced that the whole family would be spending the weekend at our grandparents' countryside home. No excuses. No canceled plans. Everyone was going. Normally I would have been excited. That house held countless childhood memories. It was where we learned to climb trees, bake bread with Grandma, and race through endless fields until sunset. This time, however, I worried the awkwardness would follow us there. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and cool air. The drive took nearly 2 hours. At first the conversation in the car was light. Dad talked about work. Mom pointed out beautiful scenery along the road. Grandpa called to ask what time we'd arrive. Slowly, something unexpected happened. Matteo began telling one of his ridiculous university stories. Luca interrupted every few sentences, insisting he remembered the events differently. Before long everyone, including me, was laughing. I told myself I was overthinking. After all, accidents happen every day. Still, I couldn't shake the strange feeling that things were beginning to change. Not because anyone had done something wrong, but because growing up meant that even the simplest moments no longer felt exactly the same. At the time, I had no idea that this tiny misunderstanding would become the beginning of a much larger emotional journey for all of us. The following week felt unlike anything our family had experienced before. Nothing dramatic had happened. There were no shouting matches, no slammed doors, no harsh words. Instead, silence quietly settled into our home. It was the kind of silence that slowly grows until everyone notices it, but no one knows how to break it. I found myself spending more time in my room than ever before. Whenever I heard Luca and Matteo talking downstairs, I hesitated before joining them. I told myself they probably wanted some time alone. The truth was different. I was afraid that the awkwardness I felt would somehow show on my face. Every conversation felt forced. Every laugh seemed shorter than before. Even though neither of my brothers acted differently toward me, I had convinced myself that something between us had changed forever. One evening my mother knocked gently on my bedroom door. "Can I come in?" Of course. She sat beside me without saying anything for a few moments. Mothers have an incredible ability to notice things we think we're hiding. "You've been quiet lately," she finally said. "I'm just tired." She smiled kindly. I rolled my eyes and laughed. "I thought I'd come rescue you from another boring movie." "Oh, this one's actually good," Luca replied. "What are you watching?" "A romantic drama." "Seriously?" I laughed. "You two chose a romance?" "We lost a bet," Matteo admitted. "I don't believe that for a second." The three of us laughed together. For a while, everything felt exactly as it always had. Comfortable, relaxed, familiar. Then something unexpectedly awkward happened. While reaching across the couch to grab the television remote that had slipped between the cushions, I accidentally bumped Matteo's hand. At exactly the same moment he reached for it too. Our hands collided. Neither of us expected it. "Oh, sorry," I said immediately. "My fault," he answered just as quickly. For a second, all three of us paused before bursting into laughter over how perfectly timed the accident had been. It was completely harmless. Yet for reasons I couldn't explain, I suddenly became self-conscious. Maybe it was because we were all growing older. Maybe it was because life was changing faster than I wanted to admit. Or maybe I simply realized that childhood was quietly disappearing. Whatever the reason, something inside me shifted. That evening I found myself replaying the moment over and over, wondering why such a small accident had made me feel so awkward. Our parents loved hearing us laugh together. Despite their demanding careers, they always encouraged our close relationship. Every Sunday became family day. Sometimes we'd drive into the countryside. Other weekends we'd explore museums, enjoy long lunches, or simply walk through town eating gelato while talking about school, sports, and our dreams. Those memories became the foundation of my happiest years. As high school approached, life naturally became busier. My brothers started preparing for university entrance exams. I focused on my own classes, yet somehow we still found time for late-night conversations around the kitchen table. We talked about everything: dream careers, travel, friendships, failures, the future. Those conversations made me believe nothing could ever come between us. I truly believed our family would always stay exactly the way it was. But life has a strange way of testing the things we take for granted. The first sign of change didn't arrive with an argument. It didn't come after some dramatic event. Instead, it appeared during one ordinary summer afternoon that seemed completely unimportant at the time. The sun poured through the living room windows while the house remained unusually quiet. Our parents were still at work. Luca and Matteo sat together watching a movie after finishing some university paperwork. I had spent most of the afternoon reading upstairs before deciding to join them. Without thinking much about it, I walked into the living room carrying a bowl of popcorn. "You've been hiding up there all day," Luca joked. "I've been reading." "Reading?" Matteo raised an eyebrow dramatically. "Who are you? And what have you done with our sister?" Our parents loved hearing us laugh together. Despite their demanding careers, they always encouraged our close relationship. Every Sunday became family day. Sometimes we'd drive into the countryside. Other weekends we'd explore museums, enjoy long lunches, or simply walk through town eating gelato while talking about school, sports, and our dreams. Those memories became the foundation of my happiest years. As high school approached, life naturally became busier. My brothers started preparing for university entrance exams. I focused on my own classes, yet somehow we still found time for late-night conversations around the kitchen table. We talked about everything: dream careers, travel, friendships, failures, the future. Those conversations made me believe nothing could ever come between us. I truly believed our family would always stay exactly the way it was. But life has a strange way of testing the things we take for granted. The first sign of change didn't arrive with an argument. It didn't come after some dramatic event. Instead, it appeared during one ordinary summer afternoon that seemed completely unimportant at the time. The sun poured through the living room windows while the house remained unusually quiet. Our parents were still at work. Luca and Matteo sat together watching a movie after finishing some university paperwork. I had spent most of the afternoon reading upstairs before deciding to join them. Without thinking much about it, I walked into the living room carrying a bowl of popcorn. "You've been hiding up there all day," Luca joked. "I've been reading." "Reading?" Matteo raised an eyebrow dramatically. "Who are you? And what have you done with our sister?" "No, you're not." That evening both of my brothers sat beside me while I explained everything. They didn't make fun of me. They didn't tell me I was overreacting. They simply listened. The next day they encouraged me to stand tall, ignore the teasing, and remember that one person's opinion never defines who you are. Those words stayed with me for years. As I grew older, their support never faded. Middle school brought new insecurities. Everyone seemed obsessed with appearances. Some classmates always looked confident while I constantly compared myself to others. I became convinced that I wasn't pretty enough, smart enough, or interesting enough. Without realizing it, I began withdrawing from people. Once again, my brothers noticed before anyone else. One evening, Matteo found me staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. "You've been standing there for 10 minutes, he said. "I just wish I looked different." He laughed softly. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "When we were little, you never worried about mirrors." "I was a kid." "Exactly." He smiled. "You judged yourself by how happy you felt, not by how perfect you looked." His words didn't erase my insecurities overnight, but they reminded me that confidence isn't something other people hand to you. It's something you slowly build. Whenever I fell while learning to ride my bicycle, one of them would help me stand while the other inspected my scraped knee as though he were a doctor. Whenever I cried because of a bad dream, they were the first to hear me before our parents even woke up. Whenever I doubted myself, they somehow knew exactly what to say. Looking back, I realize how fortunate I was. Many siblings spend their childhood arguing over toys or competing for attention. We were different. Of course, we argued over television channels or who had eaten the last slice of pizza, but none of those disagreements ever lasted long. By sunset, we were laughing again. Everyone in the neighborhood knew us as the inseparable three. If someone saw Luca, they expected Matteo to be nearby. If they saw the twins, they assumed I couldn't be far behind. Our neighbors often joked that I had two personal bodyguards. At the time, I loved hearing that. When I started elementary school, I was painfully shy. Speaking in front of classmates terrified me. One morning, another student laughed at the way I pronounced a word during class. It seemed like such a small moment, but to a 7-year-old, it felt devastating. I came home in tears. I didn't even have to explain what had happened. Luca noticed my swollen eyes before I spoke a single word. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I shook my head. "I'm fine." He smiled gently. "Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional true life inspired stories filled with family drama, unforgettable twists and powerful life lessons, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications and leave a like. Your support helps this channel grow and allows us to continue bringing you stories that stay with you long after they're over. Now let me tell you about one chapter of my life that I carried in silence for years. My name is Elena, and even now looking back on those memories fills me with emotions I still struggle to explain. There are moments in life that seem ordinary while they're happening, yet years later you realize they quietly changed everything. This is one of those moments. Growing up, I believed my family was almost perfect. We lived in northern Italy, in a beautiful town filled with narrow cobblestone streets, colorful cafes, and old buildings that looked like they belonged in a painting. Tourists admired its beauty every season, but to me it was simply home. My parents worked incredibly hard to provide us with a comfortable life. My father, Marco, owned a successful logistics company. My mother, Isabella, was a respected interior designer whose work often appeared in local magazines. Their careers demanded long hours, meetings, and frequent travel, yet they always tried to make time for family dinners and weekend outings. I never doubted that they loved me. Still, the people who shaped my childhood more than anyone else were my two older brothers. Their names were Luca and Matteo. They were twins, only 2 years older than me. But growing up they seemed much older, stronger, wiser, and capable of solving every problem I faced. From my earliest memories, they treated me less like an annoying little sister, and more like someone they had promised to protect.